from APM, American Public Media.
Florida State University license plates support scholarships for students at FSU, a preeminent institution that enriches and contributes to the state and nation. Gifts for first-time buyers can be found online at fsu.edu/mytag.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.
Good morning and welcome to First Coast Connect. I'm Ann Schindler. Today, are toxic parents spoiling sports? We discuss new research showing how their presence on and off field is causing burnout for coaches and kids alike. Then, from a filthy hotel room to the local stage, we tell you about an upcoming performance of the searing one-person play, The Fever, and a chance to compete in a wheelbarrow obstacle course or play soccer with a backpack blower. The inaugural Landscape Rodeo gets underway this weekend. Join the conversation. Give us a call on air at 904-549-2937 or head to firstcoastconnect.org where you can find all the ways you can connect with us, and you can sign up for our new daily newsletter, which delivers program information and a sneak peek at upcoming guests to your inbox every weekday. Stick around. We'll be back right after the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The CEO of big tech company Meta will testify today in a closely watched civil trial against the social media platforms Instagram and YouTube. CEO Mark Zuckerberg will take the stand in Los Angeles. The companies are accused of creating products that addict young people. NPR's Bobby Allen reports the companies say they're protected by federal law.
Social media companies have used a legal shield known as Section 230 to avoid all sorts of legal consequences of what people post to their sites. It's been described as an impenetrable fortress for Silicon Valley. But in recent years, plaintiffs' lawyers have gotten pretty creative, and they are now suing tech companies under product liability law to say, you know what, these platforms are essentially defective products like a defective car or a defective toaster, and that Meta and Google, the equivalent of a manufacturer, should be held liable.
NPR's Bobby Allen reporting. The Pentagon is sharing fresh evidence for what it claims was a secret Chinese nuclear test. NPR's Jeff Brumfield has more on the alleged test that took place 6 years ago.
On June 22nd of 2020, a remote seismic station in Kazakhstan detected a tiny earthquake, except the U.S. says it wasn't an earthquake at all. Christopher Yaw is an arms control official at the State Department. He says the data look clear.
It is quite consistent with what you would expect from a nuclear explosive test.
Yaw shared the details during a talk at the Hudson Institute, a D.C. think tank. Not everyone agrees. Ben Dando is a seismologist with NORSAR, an independent monitoring group. He says the data are inconclusive.
We can't really confirm or deny whether a nuclear test took place at this point.
China is currently undergoing a massive expansion of its nuclear arsenal. The Pentagon believes it could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. Jeff Brumfield, NPR News.
The U.S. is becoming more renter-friendly. That's according to a report from Realtor.com on January's rental market. Asking rents are down from a year ago, and vacancy rates are up. NPR's Stephen Bisaha reports more renters have bargaining power.
There are some exceptions where landlords have more power. Coastal cities like Boston, New York City, and San Jose still have few vacancies. But empty apartments across most of the country are pushing rents down. In the 50 largest metros, the median asking rent in January was a bit under $1,700, down 1.5% from a year earlier. Overall, vacancies were at 7.6% across those metros. A big reason for dropping rents and vacancies are new apartments being built, especially in the Sunbelt. But the National Association of Realtors is expecting apartment construction to slow down this year, in part because of those vacancies. Stephen Basaha, NPR News.
On Wall Street and pre-market trading, Dow futures are higher. This is NPR.
You're listening to WJCT News, 89.9 in Jacksonville. I'm Stephen Ponson. It's 9:04. A 46-year-old Jacksonville man's been indicted on a federal charge of conspiracy to influence major international track and field competitions. The indictment accuses Paul Askew of giving performance-enhancing drugs to an athlete from mid-2023 to late 2024. Competitions include the 2024 U.S. Olympic trials and even the Paris Olympics. Askew faces up to 10 years in federal prison if he's convicted. A bill addressing gender identity in the workplace advances in the Florida House. Chris Young reports opponents of the bill say it discriminates against the LGBTQ+ community.
HB 641 bans public employers from punishing employees for not using a coworker's preferred pronouns, restricts employment forms to just male and female, and prohibits training on sexual identity and gender expression. Republican Representative Rachel Plakin sponsored the bill.
Florida's workers should not be forced to choose between their conscience and their jobs.
Public comment was mostly against the bill. Some people, like Luis Salazar, say it opens the door for harassment.
It is a way of discriminating and making discrimination okay. It is not our right to do this to people, especially in an economy where we need workers. And turning down workers right now is not where we should be heading.
The bill advanced 13-6 in the House subcommittee. A similar bill passed a Senate committee earlier this month. I'm Chris Young.
Temperatures will reach the lower 80s for inland areas of northeast Florida today, and it'll be in the mid to upper 70s along the coast, and we'll have mostly sunny skies.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Amazon Business, offering business buying services from office supplies to IT essentials and maintenance tools to help bring visions to life. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com. This is NPR.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Insults, physical assaults, even arrests on the sidelines. They've become all too common reality at youth sport games. I'm Ann Schindler. This is First Coast Connect. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're talking to a longtime official, a Florida Hall of Fame coach, and a local psychologist about how parents are causing frustration and burnout, including in their own kids. Later in the program, a one-person play explores privilege in a world of inequality and suffering. We meet the director of The Fever. But first, you may have seen one of these parents. At one point, you may have been one of these parents. But new research shows on and off the field pressures from toxic parents is increasingly spoiling youth athletics, and not just for the kids. Here to discuss it, we're joined by Mike Pickett, longtime coach for the championship St. John's Country Day School girls soccer team and member of the Florida Athletic Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Coach Pickett, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're also joined by therapist Nicole Davidson-Harshaw with DuPont Counseling Group. Nicole, welcome back.
Delighted to be back.
And Zachary Roth, local attorney and longtime football official and member of the North Florida Officials Association. Zachary, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Coach Pickett, we mentioned a bit about your coaching experience, but for folks who are not familiar, you have led St. John's Country Day School to 22 consecutive district championships, to 15 state championships. You've been doing this for almost 4 decades, and your career record so far, 556 wins, 38 losses, 68 ties, if it's worth mentioning. But you've got a lot of perspective, in other words, on this. How has the sport changed, in your opinion, or the world of youth athletics?
Well, I think in my 37 years, parents have been pretty similar in my career. My first ejection as a 22-year-old coach was a parent in the stands behind me cussing at the referee, and he thought I did it. The parent said, no, it was me. I got a red card, $500 fine, and that was my first inclination that I need to start doing something to have conversations with these parents to educate them. So I was young and dumb at that point, had no clue. I wasn't worried about parents. I was just trying to coach. And
but the referee thought it was you.
Yeah.
Okay, and so gave you a red card and an ejection.
He did. Wow. I had to leave the facility, and so that was my first experience with knowing that I needed to develop something to educate the parents better.
So the characteristics of the parents perhaps haven't changed, but we are seeing an intensity change in terms of, seasons kind of go year round now. They're no longer really seasons. Costs have increased. Things like, name, image, and likeness deals, scholarship pressures. How has all of that impacted your players and your parents?
Yeah, early in my career, a lot of girls didn't want to play in college. It wasn't that big of a deal. This was 37 years ago. Now everybody wants to play in college and feels like they're good enough to play in college. So the parent pressure is definitely applied to the player. I'm dealing with a lot of girls that are really stressed out. Most of them don't even want to play in college, but their parents are pressing them so hard they feel that they owe it to their parents to do it. The cost of club soccer now is over $10,000 for a seat for a year to play at like an advanced high level. And so a lot of money is being invested, which applies more pressure from the parent. You may have a parent who played in college, and so there's even more pressure applied with that. I have two of those now, two parents who've played at a high level. They're both great, but what I try and teach my parents is don't become your child or your athlete's hurdle. You can't be the hurdle. It's hard enough. And so there's a lot of educating and establishing clear lines of what the roles are, what my role is as the coach, what their role as the parent is, and what the role of the athlete is. So for me, it's drawing clear lines, having conversations so that we don't get into that situation during a game.
Nicole, most parents sign their kids up to build confidence, to establish sort of a sense of teamwork. It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun.
But this new research that we're seeing shows that, the parents are actually draining those qualities from sports and from the experience, very often sort of draining the joy, draining what it's supposed to be just by their presence and their attitude.
Yeah, they're creating pressure points. So I kind of want to, draining the kids allows for there to be a different perception for the children. And I'm not saying children, of, minors, but just of different ages that we're talking about here. And so those pressure points can look like a lot of tension on the sidelines. And so we're seeing if you're, on the field or on the court, whatever the sport might be, and you're seeing your parent pace up and down, you're seeing those nonverbal cues, they're grabbing their head, they're throwing their hands in the air, they're clenching at the jaw. And or they may actually be going over to the coach and or the referees, and they're having these banters, but those conversations are unfriendly and they turn into distinctive arguments, and you know the cadence of your parents. Their sound of their voice and their tone and their body language. And so this observation from a child is amplified. They observe their parents' maneuvers and their mannerisms and their movements. And so that causes that internal pressure for them. But that's not even the last part of it. Then there's that argument after the game, the confrontations with other parents, right? And then there's the ride home, the post-game analysis. Hey, let's talk about the game and what you did, what you didn't do, and what you did wrong. And it's the detail for detail. And that really builds the pressure point within the child. I cannot enjoy this game because this whole experience is stressful for me. And so those pressure points really do allow that child to pivot. Situational awareness becomes, how's my parent going to act today? Am I going to be good enough? And building in that level of unrealistic perfectionism, and really does build in a different pressure point for the child.
It's interesting that you talk about gesticulating, because parents may think if they're on the sidelines and they're not vocalizing that their reactions might be all right, but there is a real awareness from players on the field about what's happening over there, out of the corner of their eye, they can see. And how does that register with them when they're seeing, certainly exultation is great, but disappointment is a pretty hard thing to see manifested in your parents' reaction.
And both of those can live in the same space, right? So, your parent might say, well, I didn't say anything this time, but you also didn't say something supportive. So saying to your child, you know what, good job. Did you have fun? What'd you enjoy about the game today? Maybe just the basic, I am proud of you. Because even if you're in the stands as a parent and you think your loudness is supportive, again, like what you said, that gesticulation, they're seeing the clenched jaw. They're seeing the grimacing of the face and the lines and the wrinkles in the forehead, and they're seeing the silence. So that supportiveness gets to look differently in order to reduce that internalization. because really mentally in the mental health world, that builds those internalizations of thought dysfunctions, and that child is then going to start catastrophizing. I'm not good enough. I need to play harder. I need to fix this so my parent can have a good time. That's the opposite of the child being able to play sports unequivocally for themselves.
Can I add something there?
Yes, please.
So the three things that should be spoken with the athlete after the game is, what do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? And you played great. That's it. Because the coaches are given the feedback that the athlete already knows that they've made mistakes before the coach ever says it. The coach is going to say it because we do it in training. We just want to, confirm that we understand where the problem was and how do we fix it.
Interesting.
And then the comparison game is the biggest killer. It's the number one rule in my program, in our culture. We have standards, and the first one is don't compare. Don't compare your child to another child. My players, don't compare yourself to someone else because you're all created differently.
What do you want to eat? What do you want to drink?
And you played great, no matter what, even if they were bad.
All right.
Tell them they were great.
Zachary Roth, one of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today was because a couple weeks ago, the U.S. Center for Safe Sport released its first ever national coaches survey. And that found some shocking statistics. It said that about 46% of coaches say they've been the target of verbal harassment or abuse. And more than half of the time, 56% of the time, the source was parents. So we're talking about coaches in that specific instance. But what can you tell us about how referees and officials experience that?
Yeah, I would say that if you asked officials, that number's probably higher. I think it would be close to unanimous that we've experienced that, and close to unanimous that we've experienced it from parents. I think something that kind of gets forgotten is that we're people who dedicate a lot of time and energy to this. Just a brief anecdote. One of the guys on my crew last year, we were talking about it, his wife coming to a game to watch him. And one of the fans was sitting next to him and said, well, which team are you here to watch? And he said, she actually said, my husband is one of the officials. And the response was, I never thought about the officials having families. So it's a huge issue in terms of recruiting and retaining officials, keeping people, because it's pretty thankless anyway. Maybe you make $50 to go work a middle school game at 2:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. You have to have flexibility in your schedule. You have to have a tremendous amount of support from your family with how much you're gone. And then if you come there and all you're done is threatened and screamed at, and a lot of people don't want to do it. I've had multiple games where we've had to stop games and have parents escorted out, threatening to kill officials, games where they're standing right next to me while I'm trying to officiate the games, not coaches, parents. So it's a huge issue in the officiating community of how do we recruit, retain, and ensure the safety of officials.
If you're just joining us, we are talking about the problem of toxic parents in youth sports. If you've experienced or witnessed it, we'd love to hear from you. You can give us a call on air at 904-549-2937. You can go to firstcoastconnect.org to find all the ways you can connect with us on social and an email connection. So this is something that we're attributing to parents, but other family members are also considered a problem. They can sometimes be even more of a problem, perhaps, in some cases, Coach. A lot of people who are in the world of coaching experience some of these levels of abuse targeted at them based on gender, based on disability, based on race. So it's not specifically about a coach's qualifications or lack thereof as a parent perceives them, but they can also be very harmful and hurtful in terms of just discriminating against, the person in charge.
Yeah, I mean, once a parent gets elevated, then it's normally going to be a personal attack in some way. They lose their train of thought. It goes way beyond their child not playing or playing poorly or getting pulled off the field. And then it becomes a personal attack for sure. I think that's just human nature. And unfortunately for a coach, it's part of the deal and you're going to deal with it. For us and officials, I was speaking with a good friend of mine who's one of our top referees in Jacksonville. He's now refereeing MLS and NWSL, so professional level. He still comes back to do high school. He said a large percentage of first-year officials never come back the second year. And it's a high percentage, 75, 80%. And so they have trouble with scheduling. We've gotten to where we can't play games on Wednesday, or you can't play your JV on one night and varsity on another, 'cause there's not enough officials to cover the amount of games that we have in our area. And so, and it is from the 99% of it's from parent attacks of the officials, just trying to get off the field to their vehicle.
I want to ask you, Coach, because you aren't just a coach, you're also a parent of a top-tier soccer player, Carson Pickett. People will probably know her name. She's played with the U.S. women's national team. She's also played with the National Women's Soccer League with the Seattle Reign, Orlando Pride. I think she's currently with Denver Summit playing left back. She's been named one of the league's best 11 twice in 2021 and 2022. And she was actually named the player of the year for Florida in 2012, which was the same year you were named coach of the year. So you've got a lot of experience dealing with being a parent of a competitive player. How has that informed your coaching? How has your coaching informed how you behave as a parent?
Well, I failed miserably for many, many years trying to be coach and father, and I struggled with taking the coaching hat off. You know, we would be in club tournaments, and my wife and my daughter Carson come up and say, "Well, I want to ride home with the Torres family," and I'm like, how come she never wants to ride home with us? And my wife, Treasurer, says because she knows she's going to get the laundry list for 7 hours. And so it took us probably till she was about 16 or 17 to figure out how we were going to deal with communication. And it became just cues of thumb up, doing great. You know, I just got to where I didn't verbalize to her and, you know, settle down or whatever. You know, we had some things that we established that we both agreed upon to make that transition of me trying to be more of a gentle person after the game, and we didn't have conversation after the game. And she did a lot of journaling. All my players journal. Yeah, it was a struggle, but it has helped me tremendously in dealing with parents and trying to educate them, because I've made the mistakes that I'm talking about. And so I think that always adds value when someone can, you know, tell you that they've made these mistakes, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes. And so I have an elite camp every summer, and at our dinner break, I want to bring in, and these are kids from all over the place, you know, Colorado, Texas, Florida, and I want the parents to come in at dinner just to educate them. And we've been averaging about 60 parents the last 3 years who come in at dinner for 5 straight days, and we talk about how to be a parent of an athlete. Don't make these mistakes. Don't film your kid with your phone.
Don't.
Unless you're a certified coach, don't do that.
Okay, why?
Because they're going to go home and start telling them what they think they should be doing. And so they're not in our training. They're not even qualified to do that. They're going to actually do more damage and contradict probably what we're trying to teach them.
Do you tell them not to coach from the sidelines?
Absolutely. If they do, if there's if I see a player making eye contact with their mom, dad, whoever it is, they're coming off the field. It's established. I say at my parent meeting, it's very crystal clear that their job is to encourage, root for our team. Don't root against the other team. Don't say anything to the officials. Just root for our team. And that's what your role is.
I want to ask you a little bit more about Carson, because she's also known for her work with children with limb differences. She was born without a hand and a forearm. And she has, in fact, a picture of her went viral a few years ago for her interactions with fans. One kid named Joseph, who also had a similar birth situation. And I think she calls it her unique quality. But did that in any way, did that figure into how you coached your daughter when you were coaching her? No,
we were, we established some things after one day of crying, when she was born. My wife was a Division I basketball player, played in 2 Final Fours, and we were both athletes. And so we knew it's an upside down and brutal world out there. And we knew that we needed to establish some things with her if she was going to make it in a world that's very difficult. And so, she couldn't say, I can't do something or I quit. Those are the two things. Those were like cuss words in our house. So if she started something, she had to commit to it no matter what the outcome was. Finish your commitment and just keep trying. Get up, you fall down, get up and go again. So we were hard on her just in that aspect because we knew we needed to harden her for what she was going to see in the real world.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a crazy journey. God blessed her with this platform. It's what she does off the field at all these stadiums after games. Lucky Finn's project and is 10 times, 100 times better than anything she could ever do on the field. She's impacted so many children and adults who are limb deficient. it's amazing to watch that.
It's a remarkable story. I do want to get to a couple of calls. We have a call from Gail in Riverside. Good morning, Gail. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Boy, it's really great to hear you guys talking about this because I was a director actually of a group called Character Counts, and we had a program about character counts and sportsmanship, and we did it for the city, for all the city teams that played. We had for baseball, basketball, football, and we talked to a lot of the coaches and parents and all of the things, and this was 20 years ago, all of the things that you're talking about were issues that we were dealing with back then. And I guess it's going to always be that they're going to have the problems. But I remember parents that would go up to the fence and they would be yelling at their kids to do certain moves or to do it this way or that way. And and I didn't have the position as I wasn't a coach, so I couldn't tell the parents that they had to sit down, but I would strongly urge them to sit down and to let the coach do his job. So it's good to hear you're doing this.
Thanks, Gail. Appreciate the work that you've been doing as well. We have an email from Erin saying, we had a parent who was so toxic on the sidelines at soccer games. She would make fun of other kids, yell at the referee, say things to the coach as well. She said most under her breath, but loud enough for those close to her to hear. Her son ended up becoming very mean as he grew up, would put others on the team down, make fun of them to the point that they would not return. It was very hard for years to cope with this parent. Erin says, Nicole, is that the kind of thing that you see that kids are embodying or kind of take on the characteristics of their parent if their parents are acting out like that?
100%. Those subtle little diversions that parents think that they're manifesting that are helpful become amplified in a child's mind. I was wanting to kind of connect the two because in seeing parents do that and the children mimic it, children have that observation of their parents. They're always looking to see what they're going to do. In the mental health world, as a counselor at DuPont Counseling, we say they're ankle biters or they're knee huggers or they're hip maneuvers, but sometimes they're right about here by the time they're playing sports like Carson. So to the caller, to what you and I are talking about even now, and to Carson, it goes to character. I kind of want to put a little alliteration on it. Carson character, but it goes to character, who you are on and off the field, but mostly off the field. That's what you bring onto the field. But respectfully to all parents, if we see a parent that's acting with that level of hostility, that's because that's something else that's going on with that parent. And I don't say that as a matter of factly or flippantly, but it's distinctive and measurable if someone is filming with their phone to be able to regurgitate that conversation later. That child is going to perceive that that's the resource I use to learn how to play better. If a parent is responding nonverbally with gesticulation, verbal things with coaches, always needing to have, the constant arguments, that's probably a lack of appropriate problem solving in the home, conflict resolution, emotional regulation. So to the caller, that begets that generational pattern that easily can be adjusted, but if it's left unaddressed, that becomes a pattern of how that functioning is in that family system. And that's multiple family systems that may present with those symptoms, and they're coming onto the field.
We've got a call from Tom in Fernandina Beach. Good morning, Tom. Go ahead.
Yes. Got a comment about referees in soccer matches, particularly at the high school level. In my mind, after being associated with soccer for close to 60 years, the referee's got one goal, and that's to keep the kids safe on the soccer field at a high school level. What we've seen is a lot of coaches coach to the level of the referees. I.e., if they know there's not a really good referee or a high-quality one, they'll play a very different brand of soccer to the point that the kids don't even like to play some teams because they know members of their team are going to get hurt. Where they'll play 4 or 5 matches and nobody ever gets hurt. They play one team and 4 people come out of the game. The question is, do you see that at the high school level? And more importantly, what from the referee side can you do about coaches that teach kids? I won't say to be mean on the soccer field. That's not correct. But not to play pure soccer soccer, but actually try to hurt kids, because kids don't try to hurt kids unless somebody tells them to.
Tom, thanks so much for your question. Zach, I want to ask you about that because there's a moment in games sometimes where you can see that injuries are starting to happen, bad fouls are starting to happen. We really rely on the referees and the officials to bring that game into a measure of control, and so it doesn't continue. But it's a lot of responsibility, especially if you're already facing this very critical audience. But to Tom's question, how do you manage that? What is the best approach to trying to control the injuries? Are you seeing that?
Sure. So I can't speak to the soccer side because I do football, but in the football world, a large part of it is knowing what you're going into in the game. Teams have reputations, coaches have reputations in terms of what they want to do, not necessarily negative, but this team wants to play aggressive. We'll have a team, they're going to want to be on the line. So one thing we always talk about in football is we need to get the first cheap one. The first time we have a cheap shot, we have to flag it because that sets the tone that we're not going to accept it. If we let that go, it tells them they can get away with it, and it'll keep happening. Another huge part of it is we call it dead ball officiating. Most of the game management, the game control, what we're talking about here is between the plays. Most parents, most fans can sit there and say, yeah, that left tackle stood up, that's a false start. They don't really need us to have a particular expertise to call that. Where we bring a level of control is with our communication outside of the plays. When nobody else is paying attention, what we're doing, talking to the coaches, talking to the players, moving things along, talking to each other. Hey, I'm seeing this issue when he comes across the field. Watch him there, that kind of stuff. So it's really communication is huge. Players, coaches, and between officials.
What sort of best strategies have you come up with when it comes to communicating? For instance, if you know that you've got a coach or a team that's coming in that is predispositioned to go hard or to, play right on that edge or even go past it, do you have conversations with the coach before the game? Do you try to set a tone with the players before the game, or are you just handling it as they arise?
Absolutely. If we have a particular player we've seen on film, for some reason or something that we know is a problem, we'll talk to him before the game and say, hey, we're not out here to judge you, but just know what you've done in prior games, we're not going to let you do today. We're going to flag that. Talking to the coach and saying, hey, coach, we know you like to play on the line. That's great. Football's a physical game. When you cross that line, we're going to get you. We had another one, I won't say who it was, but a local coach several years ago who was a problem. The way he treated officials, he was a problem. And so our crew was sent to that game because our two line of scrimmage officials both work college football and are experienced in dealing with coaches. And we grabbed him for the game and said, Coach, our crew is here because we're going to throw you out if you behave the way you've behaved before. That's why we're here. Didn't have a problem from him, not a peep. So communication is huge.
In terms of the physicality of the game, when you are dealing with football, you're going to expect, again, that contact sport. I think a lot of people in the world of soccer, it starts out and the kids are 5 and they're just fumbling around and playing with, dandelions. But there is a point at which soccer all of a sudden changes and it becomes a very physical sport without equipment to protect them. And at what point does that change, and why does it sort of suddenly become acceptable that this game that was this sort of soft, enjoyable thing to watch your kids play becomes kind of traumatic?
Well, soccer is a physical sport at the highest levels. It's physical, and managing that as they grow, because you do have to teach them how to tackle properly. But back to, was it Tom?
Yeah.
Back to his point, there are certainly coaches who have playing styles, some more defensive, some are more attack-minded, and so you definitely have coaches who have identity in their personal preference of how they play. I haven't come across anyone that I consider dirty or cheap shotting on purpose. And to Zach's point, great job. I agree 100%. It's the same in soccer. Get the first one, because in soccer, if you don't, we have the most ejections, I think. Football probably does just because of the sheer numbers, but soccer in the state of Florida has one of the highest ejection rates of any sport.
I didn't know they even tracked that.
Oh, yeah, they do. And so if you don't control the game early and send that message of a yellow card, because you get a second yellow card, you're out, your team's playing down a man. It changes the game completely. If you allow it to go on, then you're going to have an issue. And so, yeah, it's sad. We do. I hate to say that, but soccer does in the state of Florida. FHSA tracks all that, and we're one of the highest in ejections.
Nicole, physical injury changes the dynamic a lot for a parent. It's one thing to be cheering your kid on or maybe being critical in your head or verbally about their playing. But nothing animates a parent's most primal instinct than seeing their child hurt, in cases sometimes deliberately hurt by another player. How do you recommend somebody try to respond to that? How all of the people involved in a game try to manage that response?
I'm a parent. I have 2 boys. They didn't take up sports. I wanted them to. But if I saw my child hurt of any age, yes, that primal instinct goes in there. So the first thing I would tell a parent to do is something that would be very distinctively, not wanting to happen, with that fight or flight stimulus that happens. And that's just take a pause. There are resources on the field for a reason. There's the personal trainer. Oftentimes EMT, is standing by. The coaches are trained. They probably have someone over there that's CPR trained. The people are there on the field. You rushing over is going to inflate that opportunity for that child to then start giving into the adrenaline, and I'm injured and I'm hurt. And it's just like when our 5-year-old is walking, or, the 1-year-old is learning to take the first step. Take a minute, let them fall, and then take a breath for yourself. Take 10 seconds, take some breaths, count, walk away, recognize that you are inflated, you are impacted, and don't be impulsive in that reaction, because your child is going to feed off of what they see you do.
Coach, there's been anecdotally these really intense parents that have brought their kids along, the Williams sisters, Tiger Woods, they've written books. There are parents out there that are using that as a textbook, as a guidebook to how to raise their kid as a champion athlete. How do you counter that? Or do you counter that when you're dealing with parents who are saying, like, this is how you do it? This is the intensity that you have to bring as a parent to make sure that your kid succeeds.
Yeah, again, it's educating the parent, like, this is your role. Get your athlete to and from practice, pay for them to go to a tournament, provide the uniform, let the coaches do the coaching. But they also need to look at the percentage of how many tennis parents have turned out 2 pros like Venus and Serena. How many have failed? I don't know if those numbers, they're probably not out there because the failed ones don't ever get notoriety. But, that's way less than a 1%, way, way, way less. That a parent's going to coach their child to become a professional. My daughter's a professional, but it wasn't all me. I had her when she was young. She had other coaches that were fantastic. Mark Kerkorian at Florida State was the best coach in the world, was her college coach. And so her development from me to him, it grew tenfold, if not higher. So, it takes a village to raise these athletes. And I think everyone understanding their role is really important. It's really important. And unfortunately, the hardest one to get on board is the parent.
Zachary, if there was one thing that you could tell either players or coaches or parents, anybody that's part of this matrix for your refs and your officials about how to behave or what to do either proactively or to refrain from, that could help make the game a less toxic place?
Yeah, I would say that keep in mind that we're there because we love the game and not because we want to make ourselves known. We're not there for attention. We're there to help these kids enjoy a game that we all love, and that's why we're giving our time to it. We're human. We make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. Understand we're not doing it on purpose. Understand we don't care who wins. We just want to do the best job we can so the players can play, the coaches can coach, and they can have fun. And sometimes we fail in getting the things we need to get. Sometimes we make calls that aren't there. Sometimes we miss things that are. That happens. Just like players drop passes, coaches call the wrong play. We all make mistakes. It's a human game. But just remember, we're there because, like you, we love the game, and we want it to be played by the players to their best abilities and let that decide what happens.
Well, it's a very interesting conversation with you all. Thank you so much for contributing your time to this and for the work that you all do on the field and off the field. Coach Mike Pickett, Nicole Davidson-Harshaw, Zachary Roth, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, living a life of comfort in a world of cruelty. We meet the minds behind a local staging of the play, The Fever. Welcome back. A filthy hotel room in an impoverished nation is the backdrop for an existential, if somewhat bourgeois, crisis. In the play The Fever, the central character explores the trappings of privilege in a world of inequality and violence. Here to tell us about the local staging, I'm joined by Jessica
Racaniello.
I don't know why I didn't bother
That's
asking
okay.
beforehand. Jessica Racaniello. She plays the Traveler, which is the unnamed solo actor and the sole character in the show. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Noah Bennett. He's the director of the show. Noah, good morning.
Good morning.
And Brian Neese, the artistic director at Lumen Repertory Theater. Brian, it's so nice to have you back.
Good to see you, man.
So The Fever marks the first show of the season, Brian, and you've titled this the Challenging 2026 season. Tell us about choosing this particular play, how it fits into your goals for the season, and a little bit about its message and what it's about.
Sure. Well, this season, our theme is sort of what is truth, who gets to speak the truth, and what does it cost to speak that truth? Feels very relevant for 2026 and the context we're in our country, globally. What is truth? And so we are challenging our audiences to ponder those questions. We're challenging our artists to step up and tackle some very challenging material and to take some big swings to see. I mean, look, you succeed when you have the opportunity to fail. And we've set ourselves up with challenging material like The Fever, one actor, 85 minutes, confessionally talking to the audience, silent scene partners, if you will, about our place in the world, what our responsibilities are. Do our actions really line up with our convictions? That's why we picked it.
Scene partners? What is tell us a little bit about that, Noah. How do you involve the audience in the questions that are being raised in Jessica's portrayal? How do you make the questions that she's asking about her own existence and her role in the world relevant to the people that she's addressing?
Well, I think you touched on it right there. First, anytime we're asking a question in the show, Jessica can tell you, I've told her time and time again, you have to really ask those questions. You have to leave space as if the audience is going to answer them, because it will resonate with you to some degree. You'll sit there and you'll know what your answer to that question would be. Looking at the audience straight in the eye, usually as a performer, you're performing out to just nothingness, like a void. The audience is in the dark, but the audience is very much in the light right in front of you. And when you're being spoken to, you become these people in the story. And so in that way, every audience member becomes a silent scene partner at some point.
Jessica, this character is wrestling with some big issues. She's in this unnamed country. What are some of the questions that she's asking herself? Why is she all of a sudden in the throes of this sort of existential crisis?
Sure. So she knows that there is injustice in the world. She's fully aware of it. But during her fever, she starts to question her part of it and how her struggle contributes to the suffering of other people. And where does she fall in line with that? There's no easy answers. Things are not buttoned up in a nice bow for the character, as it is real life. In life, we make choices. And for her, she's just going through it as her fever bubbles. It's an emotional and moral fever that she has. And she really just has to look at her part and decide, what is she going to do?
It must be a pretty wrenching performance. We were talking a little bit before the program today about the fact that this is a play that was written by Wallace Shawn, who is a name people will know as an actor for, more recent roles in things like Sex and the City, but he was also in My Dinner with Andre, which is sort of this art film classic. He was in Princess Bride. He was the inconceivable voice. But this was a play he started performing in 1990, and he has reprised currently, is back performing it in New York off Broadway. So the relevance, I guess, is really tangible.
It is. I mean, to me, it's amazing how it was written in the 90s. And each question we're still asking, and it's so relevant for today. And I feel like it's more important today because of how divisive the world is and how desensitized to what is happening in the world we are now. When he wrote it, there weren't cell phones that I can just scroll past the atrocities that are happening in the world. And it is a very serious topics we're tackling, but there is a bit of humor because, in life, we're going to have these moments that are difficult, but there's also a little bit of a funny tinge to it, not making light of anybody's experience, but looking at our experiences. Sometimes those bad things can be a little funny.
Yeah, Brian, this whole world that we live in, you kind of alluded to it, but there's this simultaneity where we're living our lives and at the same time there's just horrific things happening, maybe down the street, maybe elsewhere in the planet, but it's all kind of happening. And because of things like social media, like Jessica mentioned, we're kind of aware of it all the time. And yet we're also living this life, very often a life of tremendous privilege compared to people in other places. So what do you think the audience gets from this kind of a difficult conversation?
Well, sort of on a societal level, we embrace these categorical imperatives that we sort of agree these things exist. Very rarely do we as individuals, do I as Brian sit down and think, now what have I done with that? Or what could I do? Or what should I do? I hope the audience walks away thinking, what have I done with this? What have I done beyond just accept that this is the world I live in? What have I done beyond escape by doom scrolling on my phone, which we all need to do on occasion, or put the phone down and escape in other, maybe more healthy ways? When we actually grapple with these things that are in our world and we can't escape from, what do we do with them on an individual level? That's what I think the audience will take away with it. What am I doing or not?
So the Fever opens this weekend, February 20th, and it runs through March 7th. But as always, Lumen has opportunities for people who are interested in theater professionally or students in general interested in exploring it, doing so affordably. Tell us what the opportunities for the Lumen's Next Gen offering is for this particular show.
Well, thanks to core company members like NOAA, we've expanded our Next Gen initiative to a Next Gen membership. So students can go to the website, lumenrep.org, sign up for a Next Gen membership, and they get to come to all the shows for free. Also, we will be offering on, do you remember what performance date we have the Next Gen night?
I think it's February 19th, the pay what you can.
Well, that's tomorrow night, pay what you can. So no barriers, literally pay what you can, come see a preview. But I think the second weekend,
February 28th.
February 28th, we have a Next Gen night where students who are in the audience will get to sit down with Jessica, with Noah, with some of our core team to talk about people who are actually making some sort of a living in the professional arts, what that's like and the path there.
So Noah, what is it that you are most excited about with this show, being involved in it and staging it here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I'm so excited to see how the performance evolves on a night-to-night basis. We've tried to simulate in rehearsals, getting a couple people out there so Jessica can explore real-time connection with audience members. But every audience is going to be a little bit different. We were just talking outside of the studio about the very opening moment of the show. It's going to be kind of stark and a little bit uncomfortable. And I was like, there very well may be a performance where people laugh. There may be unintended laughter in some parts, and there may be parts where the audience is a little bit quieter than you expect, and there may be moments where they won't look Jessica in the eye, even though she's right in front of them. And so I'm so excited to see how every performance is different just based on the people in the space. I mean, the audience really is the scene partner of this show.
Jessica, that seems like that's such a challenge as an actor. How do you prepare for that when you're talking about so many different possible reactions?
I'm excited about it, first off. Everyone says, oh, you're in a one-person show, but the audience is definitely my scene partner, and I love that. How do you prepare? You just know the dialogue. We've broke them up into vignettes, so we know what's happening next, and then you just go with the flow, and that's the human reaction part of it, and that's the realness of it, that each night it might be different, but we're making that connection, and I'm just so looking forward to that.
Well, it's going to be a great performance, I know, and a really interesting topic and play. Jessica Racaniello, Noah Bennett, Brian Neese, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Break a leg. Up next, competitive yard work. It's a thing. We'll tell you about the first annual landscape rodeo.
The Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens presents Art in Bloom, uniting nature and creativity with flowers made of glass, ceramics, paper, wood, and even Lego. On display through September 13th. More information available at cummermuseum.org. Terrell Hogan Law.
I'm Wayne Hogan. Accidents can happen when you least expect it. For decades, our attorneys have dug out the facts to help juries decide who's at fault.
More at terrellhoganlaw.com. Here Tomorrow provides no-cost, no-wait suicide prevention services in our community. The nonprofit will host its 5-year celebration, A Night of Promise, on March 21st. Tickets and information available at heretomorrow.org. The Players' Championship returns to TPC Sawgrass, March 10th through 15th. Watch the PGA Tour's top players and enjoy local bites at the stadium course in Ponte Vedra Beach. More info and tickets available at theplayers.com. Florida Theater presents Celtic Woman. The 4 Irish vocalists will perform classic and modern songs accompanied by dancers and an ensemble featuring traditional Celtic instruments. Sunday, March 29th at 7 p.m. Tickets and information available at floridatheater.com.
Every morning, you turn to familiar voices. Voices that help make sense of the day ahead. From NPR and WJCT News 89.9. Thanks for making us Jacksonville's most trusted morning companion.
The Munich Security Conference took place over the weekend. It's typically a wonky affair, but during the Trump administration, the Summit of National Security Professionals has also become tense and at times combative. What Munich can tell us about the future of U.S. relations with Europe and the changing global order. Next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. The inaugural Landscape Rodeo gets underway this weekend with a chance to compete in everything from a wheelbarrow obstacle course to a lawnmower relay. Here to tell us about it is Erin Alvarez. She is the Business Development Manager at Skyfrog Landscape and a member of the Florida Nursery Grower and Landscape Association. Good morning, Erin. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
So a landscape competition staged as a rodeo. Where did this idea come from? And who all is it targeted?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it came from a kind of a multiple sources. We started out when we were all in college. This is kind of a group of us that came up through the landscape industry together, but we competed in a national event called the National Collegiate Landscape Competition. And it was effectively a skills challenge to get students interested in the industry, but also there's a career fair and networking. So companies from all over the country come and meet with these students. The students are competing in events, and it's done as a collegiate event. Well, we all got out in the industry, and in the industry, there's a lot of things called safety rodeos or equipment rodeos, where it's effectively a way for businesses to kind of get people on board with safe practices. That evolved into, hey, why don't we just do this for our company and teach the staff how to use the equipment appropriately and kind of get everybody involved. And we thought, why limit that to just one Skyfrog or one company, like, another company in town who's doing it? Why don't we get everyone together and kind of give everybody a chance to show off, have fun, and then get the public involved? And so through these conversations, we thought it would be a great way to both get students exposed to the green industry and horticulture and landscape, get the industry professionals out to kind of show off their skills and have a day of fun, showing off what they can do with equipment, and then also give back. So a key tenet of this is to take the funds we raise and then promote scholarships and career opportunities for students coming up into the green industry.
It's interesting because I feel like we think of landscaping companies as so separate and distinct and on their own and very autonomous. The idea that there's kind of this behind the scenes uniformity of mission and kind of a desire to collectively work to help kids get educated and join the profession is sort of interesting. It was a surprise to me.
Yeah, it's actually a kind of a thing that draws a lot of people to the green industry is how much of not a family, but how cooperative it can be. There's an association in our state called the Florida Nursery Growers and Landscape Association, FNGLA. And there's 18 chapters, I think, give or take, forgive me on not having the number there, around the state. And members will join for their region. And it's a way for people to get together, network, share professional development opportunities, get involved in education. And so it's a lot more collegial and kind of cooperative than people realize.
I have to ask, since it's been a difficult time in terms of migratory, legal and illegal migration. We've been thinking and hearing about landscape companies being targeted for enforcement. Has that been hurting recruitment? Has that been hurting the industry on a kind of large scale level?
Right. It's definitely a change. So it's definitely more and more companies are looking to different routes for how they staff their labor needs. And it's also, from our perspective, it's an increased push to get a lot of students like myself. When I came up, I didn't know this was even a job career path until I had been in the industry doing other things. And then it was like kind of a second found career. And so we're trying to get students like FFA age, 4-H, high school, maybe even tech school going into their post high school years, and maybe they don't know what to do, to show them this is a great opportunity and it's fun.
And so this is fun. There's 20 events. As we mentioned, there's a lawnmower race relay, but there's also backpack blower soccer. There's a wheelbarrow obstacle course and a bunch of other things. Is this only for pros, or are amateurs welcome to join?
Amateurs are more than welcome. So it's for pros, but we're inviting FFA students, 4-H high school students, homeowners. If you want to come out and just see what it's like to drive a mini excavator, you can sign up for a competition, or we'll have demonstration areas where even if you don't want to compete, you can go and drive the equipment or look at it and talk with the vendors and kind of feel what it's like to drive a skid steer.
It sounds like a little dangerous. Are there, I guess there's some ground rules in place. There's some training, I guess, that people might get if they're going to be using one of these zero-turn mowers or any of the heavy equipment.
Absolutely. So we'll have judges from the industry at each event, and there'll be safety briefings before each competitor. The judges will make sure the person's able to safely operate the equipment. And it's not very high-paced. You know, it looks exciting on the videos, but we're not really going at full speeds there. There won't be blades on the lawnmowers.
Oh, that helps.
Like that. Yeah.
Right. And so, as you said, the support, the money raised for this will be used to support training, but people can also participate to win a cash prize.
Absolutely.
And there's a decathlon?
There is. We have an opportunity. If you register for 10 events or more, we're going to take your lowest average or your highest ranking across all those events. And then we have actually a decathlon belt. So it's a really cool wrestling belt that someone can win. But yeah, the primary proceeds will go toward our scholarship programs to get students in green industry certification paths.
So true weekend warriors. How can people sign up if they're interested in joining?
Yeah, go to thelandscaperodeo.com and you can follow us on all the socials at The Landscape Rodeo. We've got a registration page there. You can click or just show up on site. We'd rather you register ahead of time, but if you show up day of and decide you can't sit out, you have to race a mower, you can sign up day of.
You're going to be joining in on maybe a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'll be there. I'm challenging people left and right, so I'll be there to show up.
Taunting on social media will get you what you ask. So
hopefully, I'm hoping.
Good luck, Aaron. It's Friday. It's at Ancient City Farmstead in St. Augustine. Opening ceremony starts at 9 a.m. and then the competition goes from 9:30 to 4:30. Aaron Alvarez, have a great event.
Thank you. Hope to see you out there too.
All right. Thanks so much. And that's our program. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all of you who called and emailed. We encourage your feedback and suggestions, and you could submit either at firstcoastconnect.org. You can also find all of our past and current shows there, and you can also sign up for our First Coast Connect newsletter. It gives you a sneak peek at upcoming guests and a chance to submit questions or comments in advance. First Coast Connect is produced by Stacey Bennett. Our associate producer is Isabella Casapow. Our show is produced by Brady Coram, and our theme music is performed by Club De Belugas. Join us tomorrow. We're going to be talking to New York Times wordplay reporter Sam Corbin about why Gen Alpha is spouting century-old vocabulary words. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
AEG presents Lindsey Sterling. The violinist, dancer, and songwriter brings her Duality Untamed tour to the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Monday, July 20th at 7 p.m. Tickets and information available at theamp.com. The North Florida TPO is dedicated to transportation planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, resilient, and connected region. More information available at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.